Well, it looks like my 5090 finally burned out. I have the, on the connector, this is the Founders Edition 5090, got it as a review sample from NVIDIA, been using it since day one, and I hadn't had an issue up till now. So here's what just happened to me. Basically, I've been testing out a bunch of GPUs in 007 First Light, and the last one I ended with was the 5090. Then I actually played the game a little bit more past that point last night, and then now I actually wanted to play it a bit more. I'm enjoying the game, and so I fired it up today, and the computer booted just fine. And then when I fired up the actual game, suddenly I lost signal to the display, and then the fan started spinning like crazy in the PC, and I was like, okay, that's weird. But I just power cycled the PC. It booted up again just fine. I was like, okay, weird things happen, fine. So I start up the 007 First Light again, and the second I start up the game, fans start spinning like crazy in the PC, and I lose the display signal again. And then it started to cross my mind, that is my 5090 in here right now. I haven't had the connector problem. Did it finally get me? So I kind of somewhat scared, open up the PC, and I'm like, okay, let's check on the connector. So I start to wiggle the connector out to take a look at it, but it's in there pretty firmly. And I'm like, it really shouldn't be in there that firmly. Oh no, starting to get that sinking feeling in my stomach. And I kind of wiggle it back and forth. I finally get it out. And I think you guys can see this in here. I'll try to see if I can get the camera to focus on this. That might be a little bit annoying. But yeah, the pins are definitely burned out here. Again, trying to get the camera to actually focus on the correct piece of this thing can be annoying. But the pins are definitely burned out. There's the like melted wire stuff going on here, and some of the plasticky bits that usually are around here, I don't know the right terms for them, but you know, there's the little plastic frames around the wires here, and some of those have kind of melted and stayed inside the 5090 here. Again, I can attempt to get closer in here with the camera on that, if I can. The lighting's not really good here. I'm not really set up to film this kind of thing. But that's where that would normally connect in, and some of those pieces are stuck in there. Now, so let me talk about my use case with the 5090, how I've used it. So again, I'm aware of this problem. So usually when I swap out the 5090, and admittedly, since I test graphics cards on a regular basis, this 5090 is in and out of this PC constantly. So this is getting used more than a typical user would, like absolutely. Now, with that in mind, I generally have left this dongle attached because I do have the, I do the 8-pin to the dongle connector, and this is the Founders Edition version, and it's using the dongle that came with the Founders Edition card. Again, review sample 5090. So I generally leave the dongle connected to the 5090 when I disconnect it from the PC. And then so I set the 5090 aside with this dongle still attached to it. And then when I reseat the 5090, every time I do that, I try to remember to like firmly push on the 12-pin connector to make sure it's still fully seated and it's not getting wiggled out or anything like that, because I am aware of the issue. Now, I can't promise there's never been a time that I've put the 5090 back in and forgotten to like push back on that or anything. So maybe it's possible that it's wiggled out a little bit over time, and if it's not seated super well, you can get a little bit more electrical resistance and things like that. So maybe that contributed to it, but I do try to be mindful of it since I'm aware of the issue. And like I said, I do bring this GPU in and out a lot more than the typical users that could have potentially led me to be more prone to have this problem. But that's it. My 5090 is now having the 12-pin issue. As far as what I'm planning to do next, well, I mean, first of all, if you're expecting any 5090 content on the channel anytime soon, nope, I don't have any other 5090s. So since I received this as a review sample, rather than receiving it as, than having purchased it, I can't look to do like an RMA or anything like that with like a store I bought it from, right? So I think my next steps are going to be to reach out to my NVIDIA contacts who do the review programs and just mention that I've got this problem. Maybe I will link this video and see if they can do anything regarding my sample, if it can be fixed or replaced or something like that. So anyway, fortunately, I have lots of other graphics cards to test, and most people don't need to see a 5090 tested because most people can't afford one anyway. So fortunately, I'm in that kind of position, and like I said, I did receive it as a review sample. If I had been somebody who, this was my only GPU and I paid like, what are these going for these days, like $4,000? I would certainly be in a much worse mood right now. So anyway, at least I'm in a position where I can laugh this off. I've got other hardware to use and to test and make videos about. So really, I just need a 5090 for comparing with other GPUs. So maybe, hopefully by the time there's a 6090 or something like that, I'll have replaced the 5090. Hopefully, like I said, NVIDIA will be able to, maybe exchange it for a working one, or maybe I can send it in and they can get that connector fixed or something like that. But yeah, I did finally encounter the problem myself, rather than just reporting on other people with the problem. Yeah, like I said, thinking about my use case, like I said, I usually leave this connector inserted, but I do swap out GPUs on a pretty regular basis, so that's probably a tough workload for this, but it would be nice if people didn't have to worry about this problem. I can say that I have absolutely never had a problem with any of my 8-pin stuff burning out on anything, so that's it. Just since we're talking about the issue, my overall thoughts on this connector is that, like, regardless of how many of these are burning out, what percentage of them it is, the fact that it's like any of them seems too high, and the amount that we see reported seems too high. So I think that just fundamentally, this connector just isn't as stable as using a bunch of these. Now, having a bunch of these connecting to the GPU, I see why that's like not as aesthetically pleasing or whatever, but like in the end, I would prefer to just have a bunch of 8 pins as opposed to this to avoid these kinds of problems. Because, yeah, I mean, if you just think about the amount of electricity going through the amount of wire, it just seems that this is fundamentally going to be a less stable situation, more prone to problems, than feeding the same amount of power through a much larger number of connectors and more wire overall. And I am not by any means an expert on any kind of electrical connection, so I'm not going to comment on actually being knowledgeable in any depth on these types of connections and what can go wrong with power and electricity and all of that. You should look to other sources for that kind of information. I'm just saying the problem finally happened to me, and that sucks. But I'm just one anecdotal evidence. I can't comment on statistically what percentage of people are having this issue, but I'm certainly having it. And yeah, anyway, thought I'd let you guys know. I'm going to go start writing to NVIDIA and seeing if they can do anything regarding the sample. We'll find out. Hope you guys have a better day than me.